Number one since 1998 on television, ESPN Radio, and the World Wide Web, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with your hosts, the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, and Damian Nelson. Professional wrestling news, opinion, and information from fans for fans.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Meathead. This is PWR Primetime for Wednesday, June 10th, 2009, Friday, June 12th, 2009 on Time Warner Cable in southeastern Wisconsin. We had him for just a few moments, a few days, a few hours maybe. Frank Cosentino, the Cos, now in hiding again.
Back into the way Frank Cosentino does live his life, incognito.
Breaking news just a couple of days ago, WWE continues to clean house Umaga, the latest release for World Wrestling Entertainment. This time, Meathead, we know the reason, and it is clear, another wellness policy violation, his second since being with the company. Umaga gone from WWE. We've got some comments.
Umanga, or Umaga?
I like to call it Umaga.
Yeah.
Here's the good part about it. Independent bookers all around the country now have an opportunity to book Armando Estrada and Umaga together.
That's a hot show.
Maybe we'll see it here somewhere. Speaking of here, if you're watching this on Friday night, right after SmackDown, why are you at home? Because you should be at GLCW Rumble down at the Italian Community Center, where we know Frank will be. Frank
is Italian, and he knows people.
Let's talk about the pay-per-view this past Sunday. WWE's Extreme Rules. More on Umaga later, including a lot of comments from you out there in the internet wrestling community. Bonita, WWE had a pay-per-view this past Sunday. We talked about it extensively this past Monday night on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Extreme Rules delivered, I thought, a solid pay-per-view from World Wrestling Entertainment. Now, what did I tell you before the pay-per-view?
Personally, again, Damian and I, we act like we don't like each other.
Oh, I hate him. How many times did I say I hate you before we even started taping tonight?
I hate you. Anyway, Damian said, I unfortunately am being forced to pay for this.
I had to buy it. Only because I was only able to watch the replay, and that's unreliable to get from other sources. But several big things happening. A new World Heavyweight Champion, a new Intercontinental Champion, a new WWE Champion.
No.
And
World.
A new Miss WrestleMania.
2 new World.
Let's talk about that right off the bat. CM Punk cashing in his money in the bank and resulting in a new championship reign for himself. He is the new World Heavyweight Champion, defeating Jeff Hardy, who defeated Edge in what was an innovative ladder match, a very good ladder match between the two of them, Edge and Jeff Hardy, at Extreme Rules. Now, earlier in the night, CM Punk obviously wrestling the recently released Umaga in a Samoan strap match. That match was good, decent overall. I think strap matches, you can only do so much with them. I think they were better in the 80s than anything that can be put on now, which leads to the next question that I wrote down during the pay-per-view. When's the last time we've even seen a strap match? Would be that as it may. CM Punk, I said, you know what? Why did he carry that briefcase with him everywhere? Maybe he'll cash it in tonight. That was it. That was the passing thought. I didn't even hit my mind.
He's not saying, hey, I predicted.
No, I didn't either. I was like, yeah, maybe he'll cash it in.
It's like a fart in the wind. You know what? I wonder if he could cash that in. Yeah, he could. Because they kept teasing it on SmackDowns for a few weeks in a row, saying that, oh, it looks like
But here's what they did with it that was good. He didn't come out and hit the go to sleep and win it. There was actually a few moments of competition between the two.
That's actually happened before to Edge, and that's actually happened before to Punk. When Punk first did it, Punk actually was able to hit the go-to-sleep only after Batista tore up Edge.
CM Punk, the new World Heavyweight Champion. The New Orleans crowd may have been drunk, but they didn't seem to understand or appreciate his win as much as they did Jeff Hardy's meathead.
They were hot for Jeff Hardy. They really were. And you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I did not pay for Extreme Rules.
The feds are watching.
Oh, no. I went to a blast zone. And
Oh,
I get
same thing I was referencing earlier.
Yeah, I get into the building.
So you thought Jeff Hardy's win was a better way to go, and not
I was
getting the Money in the Bank win?
I was interested in the match after watching it. Beforehand, I wasn't interested in it, but you know what? It pulled me in. I actually became a wrestling fan again for about 10 minutes.
I thought it was an interesting choice, and we all know the contract situation going on with Jeff Hardy. We have more information on that in the news desk coming up in just a few moments. But CM Punk, the new World Heavyweight Champion, the title changes hands twice that night. Let's talk about the finish of the match between Edge and Jeff Hardy. pulling Edge through the ladder, leaving Edge really with no way out.
Fantastic.
Very well done. Again, innovative. A lot of new spots we saw in that ladder match. Very well done by both men. Very solid effort by both men. Not a solid effort, though, by Todd Grisham during that match, which JR had to literally almost stick his own foot in Grisham's mouth to shut him up so he can get his sound bites in, which if you haven't listened to it, listen to it because that's exactly what was happening. But again, that's why JR is there. He is the expert. He is the professional. Todd Grisham is very great.
The team of JR and Grisham is not working.
Not working at all. I would agree with you.
Because you know what? JR is still doing
play-by-play man for his life.
Yeah, well, even though he's a booby-loving, nose-picking, cigarette-smoking Oklahoma barbecue sauce guy, or barbecue boy. JR is still doing play-by-play, even though
good old JR.
Even though he's supposed to be doing color commentary, he's still doing play-by-play, and it's not fun to watch or listen to.
Batista wins the WWE Championship. Folks, I didn't expect that at all for several reasons. Firstly being, why would you take the strap off of Orton? We've talked many times about who needs a title.
Remember, this taping has happened before Monday Night Raw.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know.
Well, a lot of rumors out there about Batista's injury. We'll address that rumor when we get to the news desk. It's not as debilitating as have been speculated. But, again, this left me wondering why. Randy Orton, in my opinion, there's no heat in him chasing the title. There's the heat in everyone else chasing his title. It makes so much sense for Randy Orton to be the WWE champion. To me, it makes no sense for Batista to be the face champion.
Absolutely, because Batista can't be a heel champion. Unfortunately, there are still people that like him.
We know Batista said he's got about a year left that he plans to wrestle. Maybe he will retire like Ric Flair did. But
No, because if it's like Ric Flair did, then he's going to show up again a year later.
Well, unless they retire him.
And still show up again a year later.
But very surprising in what was a short match, in a cage match, which I did like Orton's constant efforts to escape the cage from the get-go. He was trying to escape the cage, and I've really never seen that in a cage match. Very smart by the Viper. But here's what I don't like about cage matches, and I think we've seen it more so lately than we did in the past. Why is there a referee in there? Cage match, you should win only one of two ways. Get out of the cage by climbing over the top or exit out the door.
There should never be pinfalls in a cage. If that's the case, then you have, everybody barred from ringside or everybody.
Well, and then this pay-per-view was Extreme Rules. If
that
there's
cage was
Extreme
not
on
extreme,
the title,
yeah.
I want to see some blood, folks. I want to see some blood. Not a single drop was.
No blood,
was
just mud. And that's how we segue over to
Miss WrestleMania, Santina Marella again. I called this in the wrap-up at pwrshow.com of this show an abortion. That's what it was. We knew going into it. I mean, it's Extreme Rules, folks. Give us what you say you're going to give us. This one match, this one moment on the card, simply really didn't have a place. It was comedic. Don't get me wrong. It went a little too long at the end, though, with Chavo and Vicky at the end. But the payoff, if the payoff was Goldust saying to Vicky what he said, which we can't repeat on this very program.
Not on this program, not on 540
ESPN.
ESPN. Yeah.
But if that was the payoff, then so be it. Great. But be that as it may, Miss WrestleMania, which I guess is a defended title, was taken back by Santina Marella, who is just brilliant, folks. If you don't have the opportunity to appreciate how brilliant this man is, you gotta just watch him.
Wait, this man?
The character being portrayed by Santina Marella. Another big title win was the ECW Championship, going to Tommy Dreamer, who we knew had said, and this had some truth to it, this would be his final WWE match if he did not win the title. I really didn't think he would actually win, Meathead, but he did, and the best part of this match was the chants of ECW, which we have not heard in a very long time.
Yeah, but it's New Orleans, for one. Do they know what ECW is? Real ECW.
Well, they may not know what real ECW is, but New Orleans was a former hotbed of professional wrestling.
But not ECW.
I'll give you that. Tommy Dreamer is the ECW champion. Christian no longer. Jack Swagger, very impressive in the matchup. Your thoughts?
It's nice to see Tommy do something, and I don't want to foreshadow anything in the program. I don't want to foreshadow anything into this program, but it's been said that Tommy Dreamer has won his first ECW championship.
Depends on who you ask. Chris Jericho, is the new Intercontinental Championship
For a record.
champion. He guaranteed, ninth time, he guaranteed victory. He guaranteed he would take the mask off Rey Mysterio. Oscar's face was shown at the midpoint of the match, and then at the end of the match, a brilliantly executed mask pull by Chris Jericho thwarted the efforts of Rey Mysterio. The 1, 2, 3. Chris Jericho, the new Intercontinental Champion. And Meathead, I will say this publicly, I could listen to Jericho on a mic for hours.
Yeah. Have you listened to him in his book?
No. Let me rephrase that. I can listen to Jericho of late on a mic for hours.
Okay, so you're saying the Jericho when he was whining, giving Penzer a tuxedo?
Not as good.
Okay. Yeah, Chris Jericho is really coming to his own, and being able to work with somebody as familiar to him as Oscar or Ron Mysterio really helped him shine.
That was WWE Extreme Rules on pay-per-view.
But
We
what
got
you
an
didn't
email.
mention was the four-way for the United States belt.
Well, the belt didn't change hands, so.
Oh,
It was a great match, though. William Regal and Kofi Kingston, the true standouts in that matchup. MVP and Matt Hardy, the other two participants. Great opener, TNA-style opener, I'll say. It was a hot opener.
Speaking
for
of
that
TNA,
pay-per-view.
I have to kind of segue off of this. The cage match. Now, a WWE cage most of the time will have, the cage right up against the ring, and they do the camera outside the cage.
Mhm.
Correct. Have you seen what TNA does for their cages?
They have holes in the cage.
They have holes in the cage. That doesn't make any
That's
sense.
at the bottom.
It don't make any sense. Who's to say that somebody couldn't run in and slip something in
Well, the
there?
hole's not that big.
No. Slip something in, as in like a
Hopefully they will.
weapon or. It doesn't make any sense. You got to quit.
David Strauger sent this in reference to Extreme Rules to PWRshow.com. He says, I was wondering after watching Extreme Rules whether or not WWE should continue with this pay-per-view, as I believe that it was only slightly better than the very poor Judgment Day. What do you think WWE will do with this pay-per-view? Will they change the name or change the gimmick?
No, they'll keep the gimmick. It's the one time of the year the WWE Universe goes extreme.
And it works, it gets people to buy, but again, I mean, really, like, for instance, No Holds Barred, Mysterio Jericho. There was a chair used in the match. Otherwise, it was a standard match. It was a great match, but otherwise it was a standard match, so why is it No Holds Barred? But anyways, thank you for that email, David Strauger.
That means
We'll have more
what that
in
meant is
PWR
Chris Jericho
Interactive
could
later
have
in
used
this
all
episode.
1,001 of his holds. He didn't, but
It's time for the news desk. Batista worked Extreme Rules this past Sunday night on pay-per-view with a torn tendon in his bicep. A lot of rumors were out there that he actually had torn his bicep. That is not the case after seeing a doctor Monday, and he will be able to continue competing without having surgery on that injury. It is unknown, though, how much time he may miss while he nurses that injury so it does not become more severe. Jeff Hardy suffered a couple of injuries at Extreme Rules, first of which being a broken finger, and the other being a shoulder injury of unknown specific nature. Jeff Hardy also recently said that he does expect to re-sign with WWE once his contract expires. The ratings last week, Raw gets a 3.4, SmackDown with a 1.9, TNA Impact with a 1.1, and ECW with a 1.05, and Superstars with a 1.0. WWE has released several of their key developmental talents from Florida Championship Wrestling, the most notable of which would be Dakota Darso, the son of Barry Darso, who was known as Smash of Demolition. Ric Flair is no longer working with Ring of Honor. He has made some statements as it pertains to his decision to depart Ring of Honor. He has a verbal commitment with WWE and does not have a contract, and said that he does not find it fair to be on two different networks supporting two different brands, so he decided to go back to his loyal WWE brand. Speaking of WWE, they recently released buy rate information for WrestleMania 25, the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. Came in at just about 970,000 buys, so under the million that it was expected to get. The key figure in that is most of those buys, a good portion of them rather, came from outside the United States. Even if 40% of those buys came from within the United States, it still equals about $22 million in revenue from that event. All of that, of course, does not go to WWE as they split the cost with cable providers before they actually see their money. And Chris Masters, Meathead, has returned or announced his return. Is that Oprah from In Living Color? Chris Masters has announced that he has signed again with World Wrestling Entertainment. He did so after meeting with WWE officials in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago. And if you don't recall, Chris Masters was released from WWE on November 8th of 2007 due to his second wellness policy violation, just like Umaga.
Again, is it Umaga, or Umaga?
For the purpose of this story, we'll say Umaga.
Okay, go.
But here's the question. First off, Chris Masters back. I'm not sure if this is really a big deal. I see him on ECW. To be honest with you, I don't think he was ever one of those huge stars in WWE.
He could have been. When he came in, he had heat. He had steam. Remember, he was the
Was
masterpiece.
that before he left for 6 months and came back half the size? Quote unquote Triple H?
Kind of like STP said, I'm half the man I used to be.
STP?
Never mind.
Not familiar.
I'm half the man
What
I
does this
used
do?
to be.
As we talked about at the top of the program, Umaga.
For those of you that don't catch what Damien does sometimes, he channels Tony Schiavone.
Umaga released due to a second wellness policy violation. Now Chris Masters being brought back due to after his second wellness
So does
policy
that say
violation.
that there is a precedent now set for Umaga to come back?
2 years later? But here's the question. What is the precedent being set now that you can have these wellness policy violations? They say they release you. It doesn't say you can't be hired back. So what is, does Chris Masters start over? How do they handle this?
Possibly.
Is it going against what they've taunted as a good wellness program?
Well, the wellness program is there. When you're in the company, you have to obey to the wellness program. Jeff Hardy, as we're going to allude to a little bit later, in an interview that he's done, has said when he was on his wellness violation. Yeah, I know.
When he was on his wellness violation.
When he was on his wellness violation, that he had to, really be strict and stringent about, making sure that he dropped every day and that he was clean, that he was living the life.
Well, I think this pretty much makes them hypocrites. If you release a guy because he's on drugs, granted, people can reform, and I'm not again saying that Chris Masters was abusing any
May I
drugs.
offer
It's
you
just
a reference
substance
from the
that was-
sports world? The real
Oh, go right
sports
ahead.
world?
Like professional wrestling is a part,
It's not.
in your opinion.
Steve Howe, suspended 8 times from Major League Baseball for drug abuse. 8 times.
Oh, okay.
I'm just telling you, there's precedent.
Well, but again, they
7
don't
times
say
he
that
said,
just because you're
7
released.
times. 7 times he said he was clean and ready to go.
They don't say just because you're released you can come back. Now, here's the other piece of this, and we've talked about it a couple of the times here on this program. TNA does not have a formal wellness policy. So if the Ken Kennedys or the Umagas or the Chris Masters even, or anybody of the
Who
world...
says that companies have to have one?
Oh, exactly. They don't. They're an entertainment company. They're not even publicly traded.
So what
TNA.
you're saying is they're not a sport. They're an entertainment company. And continue. Meathead right, Damien wrong.
Is Major League Baseball an entertainment company?
No, it's a
In
professional
addition to
sport.
being a sport?
It's a
So they don't entertain. Their goal is not to entertain.
You get that as a byproduct
Oh, so the
of
same
it.
thing in professional wrestling.
No, professional wrestling is not
Don't
a
let
sport.
me have to call Webster.
Professional wrestling is not a sport. And Webster is only defined by Mr. Webster.
Miriam.
Mr.
Does TNA need to have a wellness policy, though? Because now the assumption is if someone's released from WWE, specifically in the case of Umaga, someone's released from WWE, they go over to TNA, oh, they're back on the juice, this is okay. What stance should TNA take on this? Now, they do have an informal drug testing policy. So informal, I can't even tell you where to begin as far as what its policies and procedures are. WWE has made it very public.
It has to if it's going to do that because it is a publicly traded company.
Well, and they got a lot of heat from a lot of sponsors and a lot of other government agencies for specifically after the Chris Benoit death, which had nothing to do with drug use. So they felt the need to do that. Now, TNA has not had a situation of such, but it's a slippery slope because now WWE, they have almost screwed themselves in some of these cases by having this wellness policy because they've had to release good talents. I don't think they wanted to release Umaga.
I don't think they had much for him, though, if you want me to be completely honest. Did you care that he was on TV? Did you?
Yes.
Yes.
No, yeah.
Did you become a man today, too?
I liked Umaga. I mean, I think he added to the overall product.
I'm not saying I didn't like him, but I'm saying, do you see him doing anything in WWE if he doesn't get released? What did he add to the program? What did he add to the product?
It was part of the overall mix that I thought was a part of the recipe, if you will. It was the mushrooms, perhaps. It was actually mushrooms, perhaps.
Possibly. He is just like a Kali. He is just like a Kane. Where's Kane been, by the way?
Kane is actually going to be doing some media tours for
Just
WWE
like a Kali,
overseas.
just like a Kane, where when they need that monster heel or that monster good guy, face, they'll throw him in for a handful of weeks. They're just an attraction. I mean, that's how JR is mentioned, Kali. He's just that attraction.
Well, he's WWE being a global company. It's smart for them to have Kali because when they go to India, he's huge.
So when they go to the
Literally,
Isle,
he's huge.
when they go to the Isle of Samoa, should they bring out all
They
the
don't go there,
Samoans?
so it's okay.
Yeah.
Chris Masters on his way back to World Wrestling Entertainment. We don't know when, we don't know where.
According to Chris Masters.
According to Chris Masters, and generally pretty much a fact at this point. Speaking of a fact, the fact is we've got a lot of correspondence from you all out in the internet wrestling community and watching us in southeastern Wisconsin on Time Warner Cable Channel 14. Let's first, Meathead, talk about last week's release, which was Ken Kennedy.
No.
Released from WWE.
Don't you dare.
Did you get your batteries changed?
Don't you dare.
That's rude.
Don't you dare.
You're pointing that thing at
Don't
me. That's
you
like a
dare
loaded
say
gun.
the man's name like that without a proper introduction. His name in World Wrestling Entertainment is Mr. Kennedy!
Now you wait. This
But now
email-
it is Ken Anderson.
For those of you that don't recall, Ken was released from WWE 2 Fridays ago in a very sudden release. Reasons still not clearly evident for that at this time. Ken is not able to speak on the subject due to WWE's ownership of their slaves.
Whoa. They're what?
Slaves. I think they treat them like slaves at times. What's wrong with that? I think they treat them like slaves at times. Brian Tucker says this. Just wanted to give my comments on the release of Kennedy. I was not really shocked that WWE released...
Shocked?
I was not really shocked that WWE released Kennedy. I am just surprised they did it now after all the ads they've been running. The guy is a pretty talented wrestler. He has charisma and mic skills that most wrestlers would die for, but I can't think of a wrestler that gets injured as often as he did. What injury did he not suffer? I bet if he sneezed hard enough, he would probably tear his ACL, but clearly, a bust. He was a guy I was rooting for to make it to the top in WWE, but that would never happen because he cannot stay healthy. I don't think we've seen the last of Kennedy.
Or the last of emails or correspondence that assume that Kennedy's injured all the time.
Excuse me.
So, I
I'm
mean,
nursing a cold.
it's funny. Again, Kennedy didn't hurt his wrist. He proved that in a little video that he leaked out into Facebook and in the internet.
As we told the world when the internet and the world was thinking that he was injured, we debunked that rumor right away.
Yeah,
but
right
you can't
at-
tell people things sometimes.
I ironically went down the Max Sports page on YouTube and I started looking at some of the videos from 2008, 2007, 2006. And you know what? I read comments from videos from 2006. They were saying the same things back then that they were saying now. TNA's ratings are going down. WWE is always the better company. TNA is full of WWE rejects. Come up with some new material.
But wasn't Kennedy only really injured twice? 2 major injuries?
One that he recovered in half the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at Candice Michelle, another example. We went through the list. We're not going to beat this
Look at
horse
Batista,
anymore.
who is apparently injured, maybe not, maybe is.
As we said earlier,
Triple
it is
H.
just a torn tendon, not his actual bicep muscle. We have another email reference at this point, which I'll allow you to read as I try to collect myself here.
That's okay.
I went right from allergies to a cold.
I make
Yet
people
I'm
sick.
still here.
I
I'm
make
injured.
people- I make
I'm
people
still
sick.
here.
Anyways, Donald Wiener.
I'm sorry?
It says it right there.
I believe it's
W-E-I-N.
Wiener. You just wanted to say Wiener.
Wasn't doing it on purpose. First of all,
I
I'd like to
wasn't
thank you
thirsty.
and the rest of the guys for doing what you do and do it top notch. Okay, so Ken Anderson was released from the E. Only one can assume that he had a good reason, right? From all indications, Vince McMahon is running a tight ship with a P.
You're fired!
But can every decision they make be competent? I'd say no, only because in this fan's mind, the television product has become less viewable. I actually turned the channel during last night's episode of SmackDown. I threatened to do it for about a year, but I've always held in there. And for the record, I love the business, but feel it's completely in a downward spiral across the board. TNA, ROH, etc. Could I go on, but in the interest of
Fairness?
pithiness, it's pithiness. Just wondering if you think the release of Kennedy is a symptom of greater peril to come? things.
Well, maybe it is because Umaga was released
It's
shortly
pithiness.
thereafter. Yeah, you're right. Umaga was released shortly thereafter. It was obviously a sudden release, Kennedy's release from WWE, because they would not have pushed him to the moon and then released him 4 days later.
Like Braden Walker.
A couple of comments reference WWE's Extreme Rules pay-per-view as we continue here along the course of PWR Interactive. These were comments posted to our YouTube channel where you can watch all of our shows, as Meat had just referenced, dating all the way back to January of 2006. Punk wins, Punk wins, Punk wins. I love it. By Big Daddy 0207. Defar 786 says, Great American Bash will be a three-way for the World Heavyweight Championship. I didn't like this pay-per-view. User by the name of XOXO Skiller 2 says, I really love how Hardy Marks are pissed. LOL.
Uh-oh, here we go with the internet talk.
All I can say, CM Punk is two times world champion. Oh, and it's stupid to let Batista win, but it feeds the purpose of it because tonight Edge will go to Raw and become the new WWE champion with the help of Vicky. Interesting.
Again,
Paul,
this taping is before the airing of Monday Night Raw.
Paul S9490 says, in my opinion, the show wasn't all that great. There was only really two good matches. Edge, Hardy, and Jericho Mysterio. Every other match was either too short or boring. Cena versus Big Show. Notice how we didn't even talk about Cena versus Big Show earlier on. But to that point, Cena Big Show was good psychologically. They paced themselves as good as they should have, and the match delivered more than I expected. I don't even know what this username is, but it says, wow, Damian likes a WWE pay-per-view. Gilberto720 says, CM Punk sucks. His second time stealing
what's the house rule?
He says it, not we. His second time stealing the title. It's really annoying, and especially since it was Jeff he stole it from. Jeff needs to take Punk out.
Stop right there. We need to reiterate the house rule here at PWRshow.com.
Wrestlers don't suck. They are amazing athletes who, even in a bad match, put on a good athletic performance. Nick the Great 300 says, I don't like how CM Punk won the championship. This is the second time he did it the cheap way. What's cheap about it? You've got this opportunity. You can cash it in whenever you want.
Edge has done it twice.
You're smart to do it at the point by which he did. I think it would have been smarter to do it to Batista potentially, but I don't see any problem with the way they did that at all. Now, a couple of comments about WWE's release of Umaga from this past Monday night.
By the way, you said all three names tonight, and you just keep flipping
On purpose.
But it's okay.
On
It's
purpose.
funny.
It was a subtle thing until you blew it up.
I don't do subtle.
Sir Giggles says, WWE sucks. I hate them now. Now, companies can suck. Maurice Liebig says, what? All the future talent that I keep hearing WWE fans talk about are getting released? NWT Wrestling says, first Kennedy, now Umaga. TNA will sign both within the next 6 months. Not such a given as we may think. Cena Sucks 1 says, no, I miss Umaga already. GFP Wrestling says, I'd like to know the reason behind his release. I mean, he was just in a storyline with SmackDown's World Heavyweight Champion. Seems like all was looking good for him, and then BAM! Released. As we told you, the reason for the release was his second wellness policy violation. MR1700 says, Umaga is slower than he used to be. He needs to heal. And finally, NWO Wolfpack TV says, Umaga is a great big man. Very surprised to see him released. WWE are idiots. Wonder what he did to get released, as we talked about a minute ago. Hope to see Lashley after he finishes his fighting commitments. Mr. Kennedy and Umaga,
Omega Restaurants?
Umaga, all in TNA. I prefer TNA to PG WWE anyways, so I'm really glad WWE is basically giving its talent to TNA. You can send your emails, your comments to comments@pwrshow.com or check out the Chatmosphere or forum
Chatosphere.
at pwrshow.com or even make those comments right on our YouTube channel. It is now time for Beat the Meat.
Oh, you know what I'd like to do in front of everybody right now? Is beat the meat right in front of the camera, but I'm going to do this trivia thing instead. It's time to beat the meat on the Pro Wrestling Report. PWRshow.com. Go to comments. You can email it to us, and you can try to beat the meat. Last week's winner, actually from 2 weeks ago, was once again David Hogan, who answered the question, when Vader made a surprise appearance in TNA, who did he come in, run in to save? Well, it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes is who he came in to save. David, thank you for your answer. You have beat the meat, hopefully not in front of other people. This week's question, since we just came off of Extreme Rules, there was a thought that Tommy Dreamer won the ECW Championship for the very first time. Beat the meat. how many times has Tommy Dreamer actually won the ECW title? Once again, comments at pwrshow.com. Try to beat the meat.
We are going to, you know what? We've had a lot of comments about the draft, and thank you for all of you who solidify my claim that I did win the draft.
Who did that?
Wait till you see.
Who?
No, wait till you see. You'll see in just a couple of days, if not tomorrow, the first pay-per-view that I will be presenting called Foundation, which is this Sunday.
Wasn't
Sunday
that
at 7
pay-per-view
o'clock.
last year?
Sunday at 7 o'clock. It goes live at pwrshow.com, where you will be able to vote for, once Meatheads is produced, or presented rather, you'll be able to vote for the best pay-per-view of the month. And as we talked about in the rules on this past Monday's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, whoever wins that monthly pay-per-view will get
One of us is sick and one's not.
2 additional picks.
And
well, then you shouldn't be drinking on air. This is a nationally broadcast television program, and you're drinking on the air.
I'm just tired of
For the
listening.
man they call Meathead
I'm
and the
tired of
Cops,
listening to you
this
talk.
is Damian Nelson saying so long, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.
PWRshow.com. Log on and win cash.